brought up, I am part of a team called the Voice of the Customer. I work at a company called Atlassian. That is me. That picture was taken about 2 minutes before I was that close to being struck by lightning. I was at a bike race and it was raining. They had canceled the event and they were taking pictures, and certainly wasn't happy about that. As mentioned, part of the Voice of a Customer, I work for a company called Atlassian. We'll talk a little about them in a second. Atlassian is not health and wealth. We are a collaboration system or collaboration software. Probably some of you are using us. Products like Confluence, HipChat, Jira. Okay, well, hopefully by the end of the day, you'll be using our products. But before I get into a little about what I want to talk about, I want to share with you a specific date. Does anybody know what this date is in the case of feedback? Anybody? Okay, so I'm going to share just with you what it was, and then everybody, I'll see a lot of heads go, oh, okay.
There's never been a better taste. There's never been a better Coke. Introducing the greatest taste discovery in 100 years. Introducing the new taste of Coca-Cola. A taste that is Coke and everything a Coke needs. A taste that's very familiar, yet totally new. A taste so good, so real, it couldn't be anything but a Coke. The great new taste of Coke. Watch for it, try it, and enjoy the best tasting Coke ever.
He was so happy. So now does everybody remember that date? Okay, so what happened? Coke said, you know, hey, we want to design a new formula. It's about time. If you recall, Pepsi at the time was growing in market share. They were getting the Super Bowl. They were getting a lot of different areas, and their market share was starting to grow. So Coke decided that in order to try to pick up that market share, that they were going to create a whole new flavor with a whole new formula and a whole new look and feel. Does anybody remember what happened? Our children will never know what refreshment tastes like, okay? This is a serious picture. Sorry, it's so bad, but I saw this and I'm like, I had to share this. So yes, shit hit the fan, okay? Everybody was outrageous about the new flavor. In most cases, the formula was slightly adjusted with different changes of sugar. However, the branding and everything was off, and it went crazy, okay? Anybody know what happened? No? Okay. Well, before I tell you what happened, it's interesting, the comment, this is directly from the company. It says, to tell that date, April 23rd, 1985, was a day that lived in marketing infamy, spawning consumer against all businesses, right? That week, over 400,000 calls came into their call center, right? You think about a business that is staffed to handle some calls, and their calls to quadruple in the case of a new flavor. So what happened? They went and said, all right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go back to the classic. It was all planned. And they rolled back, right? So the idea, the reason why I wanted to just spend a couple minutes and talk to you about this is feedback is very, very important, right? Now, Coke did do some market testing. They did check some of their products or some of their consumers, but they didn't do all of them, all right? Now, you're thinking, well, how can you hit billions of people that are using your product? Well, what I want to do today is talk to you a little about what Atlassian has done to try to reach out to our customers and the amount of people that we have. So first off, again, if you haven't heard of Atlassian, our goal is to unlock the potential of every single team. We've got a lot of great customers. One that particular stands out is NASA. We help NASA get on Mars. So particularly using our products, we help them to figure out the process from working with something, pushing it over to development, engineering, and getting it really set up on making sure that the project was launched properly. Now, there's four things I want to talk to you about. The first is kind of the value of feedback, what we've done to solution it, some of our learnings, and then a way that you guys can do this yourself. So at Atlassian, you'll notice that I do not have a button-up shirt. I actually don't think I have a button-up shirt in my closet. We are a company that is pretty much, we're unique. Our culture is unique. This is our culture values that stand as banners in our San Francisco office. From play as a team to open company, no bullshit. And one area that I want to talk to you about particularly is, I'm not going to say it out loud and I don't want to use cuss words, but yes, that is a word that is bundled up. And that is extremely important to us. We do not want to make sure that we are doing bad things to our customers, enough that we have a banner and it is our culture and it's very valuable to us. As I said, our success is in our lifeblood, and probably with some of you guys. We would not survive without them. A lot of companies use that customer as a lifeblood, some don't. Some are driven on industry changes. For us, we're certainly driven on industry, but we're also driven on the people that give us feedback and are using our products. Now, there are 3 key metrics at Atlassian that we look at. Those 3 are divided into 3 core areas: the happiness of our customer, how active they are, and are we keeping them? So if you kind of take those and convert those into a metric, we use 3 areas: Net Promoter Score, MAU, which is monthly active users, and churn. One particular that I want to talk about is NPS. Now, have any of you heard of NPS before? Okay, good, awesome. Show of hands, how many are using NPS? Okay, awesome. Then you'll find this very, very helpful. So Net Promoter, who aren't using it, is the calculation asking the question, how likely are you to recommend the product, the process, the brand? That's graded from a 0 to a 10. 10 being highest, 0 being there's no way I'm going to recommend you. So for us as a company, we are a SaaS-based business. As I mentioned with NASA, is that NASA has used our product or uses our product, but there are 50,000 people that are underneath NASA that are constantly using it on a daily basis. Now, as a SaaS-based business, it's really hard to go to the admin or the person who's administering the product and go, what do you feel? They love us, nobody's complaining, so they give us good scores. But at the end of the day, our focus was trying to figure out how we could gauge the 80% of people. We have over 10 million active users that are in our product, so we needed to figure out what their opinions were. So we implemented something called an in-app modal. So as you're going through our product, you're experiencing the product, you're using the product, we ask, what would you recommend? We ask their role, we ask their name, we ask if we can follow up with them, and I'll show you in just a second. We also ask them to give any feedback. So just a little insight. Over the last year, we have received over 700,000 pieces of comments from all of our feedback, okay? We are a team of about 2,000 people, about 2,500 people. The voice of the customer team is a team of 5 people, okay? Now imagine the case that you were handed a book full of 700,000 pieces of comments and said, go ahead, can you please read all those? Can you check all those things out? It's not feasible, you can't do it. So we needed to look at what we could do to gauge the feedback of all these valuable customers to make change. So as we started looking at all this feedback, we saw something that Charles Kettering said. He said the difference between knowing, there's a great difference between knowing and understanding. You may know a lot about something, but not really understand that. So as you are gauging NPS or you're looking at your customers' feedback to implement change, you're probably seeing this, and I can tell you that there have been years where I have been looking at this. I understood, I knew that they were coming in, but I really didn't understand the themes, right? Because the biggest issue that we see is NPS is exactly like this, right? I saw a lot of hands that are using Net Promoter Score. The biggest problem is that there's a number. So if I gave you a 30, right? So the way it's calculated, you're either a negative 100 or you're positive 100, right? And as we look at a score, right, it's extremely hard to look at a score and go, well, you're at 23. Well, what do I do to move that number? We'll just go ahead and move it, right? So we needed to figure out how we could take that 700,000, how we could move this big rock for this big product. And as we started looking at it, we looked at how we could kind of categorize a couple of things. So not only do we collect the NPS feedback, but we have about 11 sources of overall feedback, and I'm not going to go all through 11 of them, but what I wanted to do is highlight some of them that we get. The NPS modal, which I mentioned, some of our support product ideas where people come in, give suggestions of ways that you can improve, and Twitter. Now, as we started looking at all these customers that were unique in these areas, we certainly kind of felt that we were drowning. And as we started looking at all of these themes, we found a couple of things. The first is reliability. Now, reliability, as we started looking at all this feedback, was the case of our customers feeling, let's see if this works, oh boy, performance. Now, as we start talking about these three things, think about what reliability would mean to you and your products. So for us, reliability was performance. Was the product working when they needed it to work? What about the quality, the security? Were they feeling safe? The next was functionality, right? So as you guys are using your products, or your customers are going to use your products, were there features, right, that they said, I would really use your solution if you had this? Do you provide this type of offering? I know your competitors do. Could you please give us, maybe if you did offer the solution, we would start using you or keep using you or convert all of our business over to you. And then the might help. The third was usability. The next was the complexity of our products, right? Was our product hard to use? Did people understand it? Was it easy or not easy to use? And then discoverability. Our products are amazing. I'm not just saying that because I work for them. I've used them for an extremely long time, and hopefully some of you are using them and find them awesome. But they are full of features, full of different functionality that you could get lost in. So as we started looking at some of our customer feedback, we saw that customers were going, great product, I just don't know how to use it. Okay? So as we looked at those three things, we said we could probably group 700,000 pieces of comments into three core themes. Those themes were reliability, usability, or functionality, which we call RUF. Okay? As I mentioned, those three areas that we broke into, we could ideally take about 95, right now we're about 95% accurate in grouping all of this content. The idea for this is extremely helpful to our teams and to our companies because we have areas and possibilities to improve. So I want to just show you what this means to us and how we've been applying it. Yeah, just a really cool picture. All right, so Confluence. Has anybody ever used Confluence before? Show of hands. Okay, you guys got to go use Confluence. Awesome collaboration software. It's a wiki. It's really cool. Last month we received over 40,000 pieces of feedback from this product. Again, we aren't staffed to review every single one of them. So what we ended up doing, wow, that transition is extremely slow. That was supposed to drop. We did rough it out. Now, as we started looking at all this feedback, we saw a couple of things. We saw reliability, usability, and functionality was broken into three core areas, with 63% of our overall feedback coming from usability, 31% from performance, and 6% from functionality. So you're thinking, well, why could this be valuable to me? So how many companies have you worked for or are you working for where your development team is focused on that let's see if this laser works. It's not going to work. On that right side of functionality, right? I've worked for a couple companies where we've sat there and gone, all we're going to do is continue to build functionality. Don't worry about everything else. We'll gain customers, we'll retain customers, we'll make customers happy as we look at that functionality part, okay? Now for us as a company, we were doing that for many years, right? But as we started gaining our feedback and grouping out all of this, we saw that only 6% of the active people that were using our products, particularly when it came to Confluence, didn't care. Could give two, informations about functionality, but wanted things to actually work. They wanted it to work, and they wanted it to use it easily. So one of the areas we started looking at is, well, usability is extremely hard, right? If you use your products, complexity is complex. To go and do the research of figuring out why customers aren't using our products is detailed and is extremely important, but takes a lot of time. So one of the things we looked at was what can we do to improve that reliability part? So we drilled a little deeper and we said, well, of that, we can see that 28% reduce, or 28% of that was in bugs. In performance, 3% was in bugs. And then it broke down into specific areas. The 6% was editing some of the features, core features that we do. So one of the things we wanted to do, right, is we wanted to focus particularly on performance. Now, many of you probably have a development team, and you probably don't have as many developers as a lot of different companies out there. So the work that you push out to business or your teams has to be particularly, here's what I want to do, and here's how I want to work on it. With different companies, including ourselves, we've had a lot of different teams go to our development and go, hey, can you start working on this? Can you start working on this? And really, it's kind of the bombardment of insights. So we wanted to have the development team, not focus on every single ball that was being thrown them of work, but particularly focus on improving one core area. That is performance. So what do? We started working on that. Now we use, within our company, we use a way to track our pages called AppDex. And AppDex is mentioned by page load times. How quick does it take to load a page? A lot of our business and solution is in the cloud. So making sure that our products load fast as you commit quickly, they're rolling out at very effective speeds. So we went to the development team and said, please start working on this. And as they started working on one particular problem, we saw over the last couple of months that things started to decline. Now, what you see here is two areas. One, the page load time, and two is the performance mentioned feedback. Okay, so as people were, as pages were improving, less people were frustrated about it. Now, I can't go particularly into NPS numbers, but I can certainly let you know kind of what the changes in our scores have been from our detractors to our promoters. So as you can see, we had over 12% of people that were extremely frustrated with us, that were talking, didn't want to recommend us, didn't even want to have anything to do with us. And over the last couple months, we've gone from 12% to 3.7%. Okay? So the idea for this is, and this is a comment from one of our customers. He said, a lot of the easy-to-use features, main concern, main frustration was around performance. That's why I gave you a bad score. Now that's a bit faster, I'm going to give you a better score. Now, we talked about that, moving that big rock. RUF has allowed us to kind of take that big rock of Net Promoter Score and chip away to improve customer sentiment. So I just want to spend a couple minutes, and I want to just tell you, spill the beans on the playbook, let you know what we did. Hopefully some of this might help you. We can talk after as well. But again, just a couple of overviews and insights into some of the things that we're doing. So first off, as you guys are looking at some of the customer feedback that you are getting from your customers, your users, we really focused on finding the sources. What can we do? Where is all that feedback coming? For us, is that what's the impact to that feedback? You might have enterprise customers, you might have consumers, you might have businesses, right? So as you start looking at all your feedback, you need to figure out how you can measure each individual one and figure out which one is, not saying the most important, but which one will have the most impact to the business. Categorize the content. RUF is something that we are open sourcing and something that if you feel like that might be a need for you, as you categorize all your content, certainly love to give you our code to help you grow your business. But if you're not doing that, if that's something that you're not interested in, I strongly suggest that you look to categorize that content. That will certainly help you to give better direction to pushing more features or more changes to your company. The next is determine those red lines. Now, for us, as a growing business, we have to figure out at what proportion we're happy with, right? You will never, one thing I've learned and shared with a lot of people, is that you will never have zero negative pieces of feedback. You will always have frustrated customers. You will always have the top 10 frustrating points. Figure out where those are and figure out how to organize them. Get commitment from your company. The biggest thing I also say is insights without action is absolutely useless. Prior to coming to Atlassian, I worked at a company called GoDaddy. Probably have heard them in domains. And the biggest thing that you have to really make sure is that you may all have commitment to make change or to understand insights, but that commitment comes across the company. The culture and values that you saw earlier, one of the don't F the customer, is a culture value that is instilled into every single employee that comes to work for us. So we want to make sure that as we get that commitment, we get that commitment to change. Also is establish those baselines. If you're using Net Promoter Score, CSAT, RUF, whatever that is, set those baselines of where you guys want to be and where you want to go to. I often talk about is that, as I said, you may have 11, 12, 20 different things that may need to be changed within your business. My strong suggestion is don't give those all to your teams. Figure out how you can give 3 to 5 insights based on the high impact of the most that are affecting your customer. The reason is that companies and individuals will get a little frustrated when you hand them a large Rolodex of things that need to get fixed. Focus on the top ones and work to change those. Monitor those improvements. So as you look to those improvements, communicate those both internally and externally. For us, as I said, NPS is that 9,000-pound boulder. And we've been working really hard to chip away at that, and we're chipping away. Our points over the last year have increased by 10 to 15% for some of our products. Now, if you're using Net Promoter Score, change is extremely hard, and it doesn't change overnight. It's really, really just making sure that you can categorize that qualitative feedback, because that's where your gold is. This is actually a picture of what we end up doing is every single all hands, we take all those comments and we we started at first printing them out. This was an actual photo of one of the all hands we did. Each one is unique, so you could copy it and pass it around. We didn't want to continue to burn trees and destroy them, so we actually moved, and that's a horrible picture, sorry about that, but we actually went to a digital format. So every single week we send this out to everybody in the company. That gives a little insight. Again, that's that constant reminder of what we're doing in our company and why we're doing it, which really helps drive that feedback to change. So 2 more slides, and then I want to open it up to any questions that you might have on the company, what we're doing, and how we might help you. Is the most important, if I could give you one piece of takeaway, not only to RUF, but to what can help you to improve your business, it's closing that feedback loop. Now, our customers, and probably many of your customers, give that feedback, then go, am I sharing this in an empty hole that is nobody listening to? And in most cases, you are listening to them, but you're getting so much that it's hard to follow up with them. I strongly suggest that you email, you figure out a way to communicate with your customers within 20 to 48 hours of their feedback. Share insights into what you're doing, but don't promise anything. Promising something will cause a frustration of bad words publicly, because in most cases things may happen where you're not able to hit your times, you're not able to hit your schedules, and it just gets even more frustrating. The last is just following up on an email and blog. So I want to share with something that we ended up working on, and all of you tomorrow can do as well. So this is an email for one of my team members. His name's Chris Carter. He's a real person. And he shared with, as soon as the feedback is given, we share the insight of, all right, thank you for your feedback. We're here. We actually have a team that cares for you. But more importantly, he gives 3 things based on RUF, right, which is the core theming of areas that we're working on. So improving the speed of Jira product, using scenarios to drive that experience, and working on a mobile device. So as we have started to kind of share these insights, again, we didn't say, here's when we're going to deliver it. We didn't say, here are main features. What we just said is we're working on making sure things are faster. We're making sure they're easier to use. And one particular area that we've gotten a lot of feedback, mobile, is we're building out a mobile experience. So we've seen, from that, we've seen a 60% open rate, which is not bad. Sent emails typically for us are between 10 to 15% open rate. For this email, we get about a 60%. Now of that, about 75% of those customers that open those emails, their satisfaction improved the next time we ask them, right? So again, we ask throughout their journey. So we ask when they first sign up, then we ask a couple months after. We aren't making any changes. In most cases, we've implemented some of these things since they next fill things out, but we've communicated the things that we're trying to focus on. And for us, it's extremely important because we're closing that loop. We're telling them that we are working on things, and we are there to listen to their feedback. So, join the discussion. We would absolutely love to help. Currently, we have about 50 companies that are outside of our business that are implementing RUF in their feedback. If it's something that you're like, that would be cool, it might help us, please let me know what we can do to help. Again, our goal is to help you implement NPS and help you to improve your business. But more importantly is to figure out where that gold is, because your gold is in the qualitative data. It's not in the number. It's in how and what your customers are saying about you that will help you to improve. One thing that was brought up is this is not paid. This is us giving you something, just trying to help. So there is no cost, maybe a beer, but that's kind of pushing the limit of what I would accept from you. But again, please, if there's anything we can do, let us know, and happy to answer any questions on NPS or RUF. I think that's it. Thanks, guys.